So since the first half of the Owl House's second season has completed airing on Disney Channel, I thought I'd go over what were my top 5 favorite episodes. Hey everybody, Bloodman Bobby here. So as I said in the intro, I'm going to go over what were my top 5 favorite episodes of the first half of the Owl House's second season. As a reminder, if you haven't caught up yet, or you are interested in checking out this show, the first season and the first 10 episodes of the second season of The Owl House are all available for viewing on Disney+. So if you have a subscription to that service, you can go and check it out. And so I'm going to be going over what were my 5 favorite episodes of the second season so far, and maybe expanding upon the reasons I gave for why I like the following episodes that I gave in my reviews that I've done with Gabby. And so this discussion is going to have mild spoilers. I'll try to keep the spoilers to a bare minimum unless I really need to bring them up. But just keep that in mind if you want to be completely spoiler-free. I'm just saying that this video may contain a few spoilers. So without further ado, here are my top 5 favorite episodes of The Owl House's Season 2A. So I am going to go in order of episodes from the episodes I like to my absolute favorite episode of the second season so far. So starting off with number 5, which also happens to be the most recent episode, and that is Yesterday's Lie. I think this is the one that a lot of people were expecting to be the one about Creepy Loose, except Creepy Loose actually wasn't very creepy at all. It was actually a very scared but friendly character named V, or number 5, I should say. Again, spoiler warning. So the character number 5 is this basilisk who was escaping the Boiling Isles in order to escape the clutches of Emperor Bellows, and the real Luce offers to help her find some more magic so she can continue to keep her human disguise is in order to stay with Luce's mother, Camila. And so this episode, because it plays out much differently than I expected, it really kept me guessing, and I really wasn't sure where things were going to go throughout the whole episode. And I really like that it surprised me like that. I definitely found number 5 to be a, like I said, scared, but also a very likable character. I really sympathized with her, and I really wanted to see her get away from Emperor Bellows. And it was really great to see that through her interactions with Camila. It kind of reminds the audience and Luce herself of Camila's much more gentle side. I think one of the things about Camila is that even though she's not a bad person, she's a very caring mother, she's not exactly the most accepting of Luce's eccentric personality or her interests. But it was cool to see that Camila takes in number 5, and through this brings out a much more kinder side, and through this it reminds Luce of the much more kinder side of her mother. So I thought that the scenes with number 5 and Camila were really great. And I also thought that the antagonist of the episode, this museum curator, who I won't get into too many specifics if you haven't seen the episode, is a really a threatening person, I would say. And so I'm really glad that this episode really kept me guessing. And it also leaves some doors open as far as the last humans who went to the Boiling Isles. As far as what happened to them, it still remains a mystery, but it really just gets me more curious to know what are we going to find out more about these characters in future episodes. So yeah, overall at the end of the day, I would say Yesterday's Lie was a very surprisingly good episode. So number 4, Hunting Talisman. This is the episode where Luce has to save all these talisman that you can see in the screenshot I've included in this video from the clutches of Emperor Bellows, because Emperor Bellows basically consumes them in order to keep what seems to be a curse at bay. So what I like about this episode is that I think it shows a future potential ally that Luce could have, and it opens the door for some more character development. So in this episode, we see that Luce has to team up with the Golden Guard, who we discover his real name is Hunter, and they have a bit of a temporary truce in order to free these Talisman, and I really like seeing the scenes where Luce and Hunter get along for a time. Like, I really like the scene where both of them have a very shared interest in things like wild magic and glyphs, and they really talk about a lot of the things that they've learned right before they're about to set off their plan. And so it really, in my opinion, gets the bowling ball going in terms of this idea that maybe someday in the future these two characters could eventually become allies. And it really just gets me hyped up, thinking, come on, please, Hunter, I really want to see you fighting with Luce and her friends and not fighting against them. But Tara, of course, that opens the door for character development. And even though I still say Hunter is still definitely one of the more antagonistic characters of the Owl House, he is also a very sympathetic character as well, and I think that's why he's both a character that I both fear, but I also really want to see become a future partner with Luce and her friends. And I would also say that this is also one of the first episodes that we get to see the much more dangerous and power-hungry side of the character Kikimura. Because up until this point, not that Kikimura was not intimidating, but she was kind of the sort of right-hand person to Bellows who was very calm, but in a sort of eerie sort of way, where she still came off as that sort of character where it's like, ooh, you really don't want to mess with. And this is the one of the first episodes where we get to see her using magic and fighting. There's even a scene in the first half of the episode where she basically tries to kill off Hunter by sending out this dragon to take down his airship, I guess you could call it. And she even goes under the assumption that, oh, this is all, his mask is all that remains of the Golden Guard. It's a shame to see that it looks like he's dead, is basically what she said. So it's really one of the first episodes I've seen where Kiki went from being this kind of calm but eerie character to a, oh, you better keep away from Hunter and Luce, like that sort of thing. So I thought that this episode did a really good job establishing potential future character development and seeing these sides of Hunter and Kikimura, whether it's good and bad, and I think it all works really well in this episode. Number 3, Eclipse Lake. Admittedly, it was really tough for me to decide if I thought that Eclipse Lake was a better episode than Hunting Talisman, or even vice versa. But I think what makes Eclipse Lake one of the best Owl House episodes, certainly of the second season, is because it's easily one of the most thrilling episodes that I've seen. And the reason for that is it's basically a three-way race between Amity, Kikimura, and Hunter as they all go for Titan's blood. And as you can imagine, there's many reasons why this would be seen as a really tense three-way race. I would say the one character where I'm just I do not want to see get their hands on Titan's blood would obviously be Kikimura. And as Gabby pointed out in our review, she's kind of nuts in this episode in terms of of how devoted she is to finding the Titan's blood, and even with how she gets excited over the possibility that she could soon get her clutches on the Titan's blood is just really something to watch. Maybe not quite on the level of Azula from Avatar, but yeah, she gets pretty invested over hoping she can find the Titan's blood. And the one character that I, of course, really want to see get Titan's blood is Amity, because if Amity can get some Titan's blood, she could help Luce build a portal to the human realm. And once again, the one character that is stuck in a really tense gray area is Hunter, where on one hand, the scary thing is that if Hunter gets his hands on Titan's blood, he would be giving it to Emperor Bellos, his uncle, which of course would not be a very good thing at all. But at the same time, once again, and it's kind of like hunting Talisman, where I just was really, really hoping that, I would get to see Hunter or become like a friend to Amity, but of course, he's still going through a lot of internal struggles. So we kind of see them play out in this kind of relationship where they can have friendly conversations. Like, I remember I really like the scene where Amity tells Hunter that she's learned that there are people out there that like her conditionally, but we still see that Hunter like gets in fights with Amity and things like that. Even though it is really cool to see Hunter, using his talisman for magic and see him like zipping around all those scenes and being able to like briefly disappear and all that, it still leads to some pretty intense fighting scenes with Amity. And when I say like things like, I really want to see Hunter become like a partner to Luce and Amity, when I say that, I don't mean in terms of that the story is slowing down. I just mean in terms of character investment. I really like seeing a lot of the character development that happens with Hunter. Like I said, with those conversations that he has with Amity, so it just makes me much more invested in his character and fuels my hope that maybe someday he'll become an ally to Luce and Amity. And I also hope that, he learns the same lesson that Amity has, where he doesn't feel like he has to, like, please his, like, family members or things like that in order to win over their affection. And I also like the romantic scenes, too, in Eclipse Lake. Like, we see that even Amity herself, is reminded of that very same lesson I was talking about, because throughout the episode, she is, really, really hoping she's doing all these things in order to be a good girlfriend to Luce, but by the end we see that she's reminded that Luce already likes Amity a lot, so she doesn't need to necessarily pressure herself as much as she does. So I thought those scenes with Luce and Amity were really sweet too. But yeah, overall, Eclipse Lake I thought was a really investing episode, certainly one of the most thrilling episodes of the second season of the Owl House so far, and I hope it opens the doors to even more character developments. Number 2, Knock Knock Knockin' on Hooty's Door, the episode where Hooty goes around the Owl House in order to help out Luce, Ida, and King. And so I remember when this episode was coming out, I honestly wasn't expecting too much. I was kind of like, oh, cool, it'll be a fun thriller episode. Especially with a title like Knock Knock Knockin' on Hooty's Door. I thought that's like one of the most humorous titles of any Owl House episode that I've seen. But no, this is a very, very substantial episode of the show. I mean, even though it kind of plays out in that sort of it's kind of like the body swap episode from the first season, where it has 3 very specific segments dedicated to each of the 3 principal characters. But this one, and honestly, I think is one of the most substantial Owl House episodes, and therefore one of the best I've seen. I was surprised that I could easily name this one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. And so I thought that the episode started off with some really good humor, with Hooty helping out King and trying to help him figure out what kind of demon he is, so that maybe you could help King figure out who his father is. And I thought all those scenes where King and Tiny Nose are all trying to figure this out were all really funny. I especially like the scene where Hooty and Tiny Nose want to take a blood sample from King, and you hear that cartoony doink sound, and I thought that the whole scene was probably painful for King, but I thought that scene was a lot of fun, and it of course leads to a really big scene where King figures out that he learns to do a certain magic spell. What it is, I won't give away. I won't dare give away in this video. But by far my favorite segment of this entire episode was the whole scene with Ida, where she basically comes to terms with her owl beast form, and it reminded me a lot. I felt like I was watching an Infinity Train episode in that she goes back to her past and relives a lot of the times that her curse caused her a lot of trouble, like when her father was injured, or how she was not able to maintain a relationship with Rain, and all these scenes. And I was with Ida the whole way, where it felt as though Ida was blaming herself for all these things that have happened, but in the end she is able to come to terms, like basically make peace with her literally inner demon, which leads to one of the most amazing transformations in the Owl House. Like, that scene honestly reminded me a lot of the Butterfly Mode Star scene from Star vs. the Forces of Evil. It's just that the character design is much more creepy, but I still think it's really awesome. It's still by far one of my favorite scenes in the Owl House for sure. And I thought that the scene where Hooty tries to help out Luce ask out Amity was also really cute too. And when they got to the scene where Luce is finally asking out Amity, and I fully sympathized with how Luce was feeling really nervous but also really excited, and it also turns out that Amity was about to ask Luce the very same question. So overall, knocking on Hooty's door. I keep saying the word surprise in this video, but I think that's what Owl House does really well in terms of really surprising its audience with these episodes, where you think with an episode with knocking on Hooty's door that, oh, it'll be, like a fun kind of popcorn episode, but it's honestly one of the best episodes of the show I've seen. But what is my absolute favorite episode of Season 2A, or the second season so far? Or we're going to talk about that now. And my number one favorite episode of the Owl House Season 2A, Echoes of the Past. If you've been following my social media, I think you know this. I know that this episode was one of creator Dana Terrace's favorites, and honestly, I couldn't agree more. I honestly thought this was the one episode of Season 2A where not only was it really thrilling, but it was also the one episode where it at first I felt like that, it got me, and it kept me guessing all throughout the episode, while at the same time I was also very sympathetic to all of the characters throughout this episode. So, without going too far, what is Echoes of the Past about? This is the episode where King takes Luce, Lilith, and Hooty to this mysterious island to learn about his origins, and Ida joins them in a flying bathtub. So I feel like this is one of those episodes where it's really difficult for me to talk about why I like it without spoiling a lot of what happens. But basically, when I say it felt like this episode had me, what I mean by that is that it turns out that King, at first I felt like, whoa, there is no way King could actually be a king of demons. And the reason I say that is that Ida reveals that she discovered King back when he was a baby, and he's a really cute baby. I really like his design in that scene. And she helps save King from this really scary creature, at least what we think is a really scary creature, on the island. And she takes King in and plays around with him and tells King about how, kings, command armies and have these really great feasts. And all throughout hearing this, King thinks that Ida has been lying to him all these years, and he runs off crying. And I feel really bad for King, and I felt really shocked too, thinking that, wait, maybe King isn't royalty after all. But at the same time, I was really sympathetic to Ida, because it's really clear to me that Ida cares for King a lot, and it's not that she meant to mislead him, but we saw that she was just trying to be a good caretaker and protect King and just have fun with him. And especially through the middle and the third act of the episode, I felt like I was watching that Gravity Falls episode where Grunkle Stan may not be the person he seems. And by that, I mean, at first I was thinking, whoa, maybe one of my expectations was incorrect, but it leaves the door open to even bigger possibilities as far as King's origins. Like we see toward the end of the episode, he goes back into that temple, and he realizes that that scary creature is actually more of like a caretaker sort of a creature who was not trying to attack King, but more so was protecting King from any like threats or kidnappers. And it leaves a lot of doors open as far as King's family, even down to, does King have any surviving family? Does he still have a father? King looks back on one of his memories and remembers hearing a demon like roaring in its language the word son, and King thinks that it's probably his dad. So it leaves a lot of possibilities out there in terms of what could have happened to the other demons, because there aren't too many surviving creatures on this island. The only one that's there is the caretaker creature that King calls John Luke. So it leaves open like all these doors in terms of where could King's family be? Are they still alive? Does he still have a father that's out there who might have been revealed in a later episode? So the reason I really enjoyed this episode was not only was that it kept me on the edge of my seat throughout much of the episode, but it also was the one episode that leaves open a lot of like possibilities out there. And I really like how this episode doesn't end in a sort of open-ended way. It ends in a way where while it answers some questions, it leaves even bigger questions that they're going to have to fill out in the later episodes. And so that's why I think Echoes of the Past is one of my favorite Owl House episodes. I know, as I said before, I know that creator Dana Terrace said that this is one of her favorite Owl House episodes to work on, and I could definitely see why. So that has been my top 5 favorite episodes of Season 2A of the Owl House. It's honestly been a lot of fun looking back on these episodes and reminding myself why I thought they've been so amazing. And once again, if you haven't checked out the Owl House yet, or you're not caught up, one way you can is that all the first season's episodes and the episodes of the second season that have been released so far are available on Disney Plus if you want to check that out. So let me know your thoughts down below. What do you personally think of these episodes? What do you think of my list? Leave all those thoughts down below, and until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby, and thank you all for watching. Hi everyone, thanks for watching this Blood Moon Bobby video. Like and share the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel to see more of my videos, and ring the bell to be notified about my latest uploads. Don't forget to follow me on social media for my latest opinions and video updates. I hope to see you next time.